Kira and I were only 20 when we moved into our first home together in a quiet town just outside Indianapolis. Everything felt like a dream's sunny mornings. Our rescued cat Bella purring in every corner, and enough space to grow our little life. The backyard was wide and peaceful, perfect for stargazing. But the house next door gave off a weird feeling. It looked like someone had started renovations and then just walked away. No lights, no fence, separating our backyard from theirs, just open space. At first we didn't think much of it. The way our properties were laid out, both backyards shared a side entrance. And behind the abandoned house lived a bunch of guys college-aged maybe. We'd see them sometimes, cutting across the neighbor's empty yard like it was normal. Maybe they had permission. We didn't ask questions. But then came our first night out in the garden. We were sitting under the stars, talking about nothing and everything. That's when I saw a face in the window behind the empty house. A man was standing there, completely still, staring right at us. He wasn't hiding. His face was blank, the room behind him pitch black. It didn't feel like curiosity. It felt like watching. We went inside after half an hour. Something about him just felt wrong. The next few days were calm. I was working long hours, and Kira stayed home unpacking and decorating. Then, one night, we sat outside again to enjoy the night breeze. That's when we heard it, the sound of wood scraping. 3 men stepped into our garden from the open back entrance. They just stood there. I tried to stay calm. "You guys okay?" I asked, just to break the tension. One of them, who looked about 29, held a big trash bag. He pulled out a pack of stolen dishwashing tablets and offered them to us. We were frozen. I laughed nervously and said, "No thanks." He smiled like it was a joke. Then they left. But it didn't feel over. They started walking into our backyard like it was theirs again and again. They never knocked, never asked. It was like they wanted to scare us, and it worked. Kira and I were 2 young women, alone. It wasn't hard to feel unsafe. Then, things escalated. We watched them sneak into the abandoned house by lifting the broken backyard fence. They had a system, like they'd done this before. One day, 2 cops came, walked into that same yard, peeked around, then left without saying anything. Days later, the police finally knocked. The guys behind us had been evicted, something about harassment and bad behavior toward other neighbors too. We felt relief, but we were wrong to relax, because what came next was worse. A few days after the police told us the men were gone, things got quiet. We started to feel safe again until it all came crashing back. One evening, while I was in the bath, I heard a loud bang outside. It wasn't casual, it was sharp, aggressive. I wrapped a towel around myself and ran out to find Kira standing in our spare bedroom, filming something through the window. She didn't say a word, just motioned for me to stay low. Later, she explained, a man we'd never seen before was standing in the abandoned garden, pointing at our bedroom window. When Kira spotted him, he ran full speed toward our house, grabbed the doorknob, yanked it hard, then darted back into the empty property. He started slamming on the windows of the abandoned house, like he was searching for a way in. We called the police. They watched Kira's video, wrote down a few things, and left. No arrest, no patrol, nothing. A few nights later, we heard it again whistling. Not a tune, not innocent. The kind men used to harass women. We froze in bed, then came tapping on our window. We jumped to check the security camera feed, but there was nothing, no footage. Someone had turned the system off. We left and stayed at my mom's. When we came back the next day, we found our Ring doorbell had been ripped off and placed neatly on the ground. The SD card? Gone. The cops said that was a sign someone was planning something, and they were honest. Lock your windows and doors. They may come back. And they did. For weeks, someone kept entering the yard. Bangs on the fence, scratches on the windows, always between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. One night we checked the live feed from inside. A man in a black hoodie and face mask stood in our backyard with his arms wide like he was imitating Jesus, just staring at our bedroom window with his head tilted. No movement, no sound. He stood like that for 30 minutes. We didn't even think to screen record, we were frozen. Another night, 2 masked men appeared in the camera view. One had a crowbar. They shined flashlights into our windows, walking along the side of our house like they were casing it. We called the cops again. Their response? It's not illegal to look at someone's house. Seriously? He started standing across the street in broad daylight. No hiding now. Sometimes he'd point, wave, or shout. Most times he just stared, always at our window. We installed more cameras, we record everything, but we feel helpless. No one's helping us. Just this morning he stood outside again, staring, masked, silent. We got it all on video, and we're terrified it's not over. It started on a rainy Thursday evening in Chicago. Kiana had just left her office after a long day and was exhausted. Her apartment building had an old, creaky elevator that she always hated, but her legs were too tired to take the stairs to the 8th floor. She pressed the call button. The elevator dinged and the doors slid open. It was empty. She stepped in, pressed floor 8, and leaned back. Scrolling through her phone, At floor 3, the elevator stopped, the doors opened slowly. A man stepped in. He was tall, wearing a black hoodie and a white surgical mask. He didn't say a word. Kiana nodded politely and went back to her phone, but she could feel his eyes on her. The doors shut. The elevator jerked upward again. Suddenly, it stopped between floors 5 and 6. The lights flickered, then the elevator went dark. Kiana looked up from her phone. "Is this happening right now?" she muttered. The emergency light came on, casting the small space in a creepy red glow. She glanced at the man. He hadn't moved, just stood there, completely still. She laughed nervously. "Guess we're stuck." No response. That's when it hit her. He wasn't reacting at all. No sighs, no frustration. He wasn't even blinking. She backed up slightly, her heart racing. She pulled out her phone to call building maintenance, but her signal was dead. She took a deep breath. "Hey, do you have a signal?" Nothing. Then, slowly, he turned his head toward her. Still no words, just silence. That's when she noticed something. His mask had no ear straps. It wasn't a mask, it was painted on his face. Her body froze. She stepped to the far corner, trying to stay calm. He took a slow step toward her, then another. "Don't come closer," she whispered. He paused. Then the elevator jerked again and the lights came back on. It started moving. Kiana stared straight ahead. The man turned back to face the door, like nothing had happened. When the doors opened on floor 8, she ran out without turning back. She called building security from her apartment. They checked the footage, but there was no man, just her, standing alone in the elevator, talking, backing into a corner, panicking. She insisted there was someone with her. They told her it was just stress, maybe hallucination. But that night, as she was brushing her teeth, her phone buzzed. A notification from her smart doorbell camera, motion detected. She opened the app. The man in the painted mask was standing outside her apartment door, looking straight into the camera, and waving. Kiana dropped her phone. Her heart pounded in her chest like a war drum. She ran to the door and looked through the peephole. No one was there. The hallway was empty, quiet. She picked up the phone with shaky hands and replayed the footage. The masked man had definitely been there, standing dead still. His face paint even more terrifying up close. Red, smeared lips, and blacked out eyes. And that creepy wave. Kiana locked the door with both bolts and called the police. An officer arrived in 20 minutes. He reviewed the footage and walked through the hallway. No signs of forced entry. No one suspicious in the building. He told her it might be a prank or someone in costume trying to scare people, but Kiana knew better. That man wasn't human. That night, she couldn't sleep. Every small sound made her flinch. At 2:46 a.m., her phone buzzed again. Motion detected. Front door. She didn't check this time. She grabbed her keys and bolted out of the apartment, running down the stairs. She didn't stop until she reached the security guard downstairs. They checked the live camera feed. Her door was wide open. The hallway was dark. She begged to stay in the security room until morning. They agreed. At dawn, she returned with the building manager. Her door was locked again. No signs of entry. Nothing was stolen. But on her bathroom mirror, written in red lipstick, were the words, "You saw me." Kiana moved out the next day. She thought it was over. She relocated to Dallas, Texas, and changed her number. New city, new job, new apartment. But a few weeks later, while unpacking, she found something that didn't belong. A white envelope with no name. Inside was a photo. It was her, standing alone in that elevator. Behind her, the masked man, grinning in the shadows. She dropped the photo and backed away in fear. That night, her doorbell rang. No sound, no footsteps, just one slow ring, and her phone buzzed. Motion detected, front door. She looked through the peephole. Nothing. But when she opened her phone camera and switched to night vision, there he was, standing inches from her door, still waiting, watching. She doesn't answer the door anymore. She moved again. Doesn't tell anyone where she lives. But sometimes, she gets strange letters with no return address. Each one with a new photo. Each one closer. It all started after Kayla moved into her new apartment in Chicago. It was a small but cozy place on the 10th floor. The view from her window showed a long alleyway with a single flickering streetlight. During the day, everything seemed normal. But at night, especially around 3 a.m., she started to feel like something was wrong. Kayla worked night shifts and often came home late. One night, as she entered her apartment and set her bag down, she noticed the digital clock on the microwave. 3:33 a.m. She looked out the window and froze. Someone was standing under the flickering streetlight, staring up, directly at her window. She squinted. The figure was tall, thin, wearing all black. Their face was hard to see, but she felt the gaze burn through the glass. She quickly closed the curtain, heart pounding. The next night, it happened again. 3:33 a.m., the same figure, same place. Unmoving, just staring. She stopped looking. She kept the curtains drawn and tried to forget it, but things only got worse. Her neighbor across the hall, Mrs. Linden, knocked on her door one morning. She was pale, shaking. She whispered, "You've seen it too, haven't you?" Kayla was stunned. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Linden explained that the figure had been appearing for years, always at 3:33 a.m., always staring, and anyone who looked too long, disappeared. There was a man on the 7th floor, watched it for 3 nights straight. On the 4th he was gone, door locked from the inside, no trace. Kayla tried to laugh it off, but deep down, she was terrified. The following night, her curiosity got the better of her. She peeked. 3:33 a.m., the figure was closer now. Not on the street, but halfway up the building, standing on the ledge outside the 6th floor, still staring. Kayla slammed the curtain shut. She barely slept. The next day, she called the front desk to ask about the cameras. The security guy, Marvin, said the alley camera had been glitching since last week, just static during the hours of 3 to 4 a.m. The next few nights, she kept the curtains closed. She set alarms, played music, tried to distract herself, but the sense of being watched never left. Then, on the 5th night, something changed. Her window was open. She was sure she hadn't opened it. Cold air blew in, and the clock read 3:32 a.m. She turned her head slowly, and saw something white vanish past the window. A pale hand, a face. She didn't check. She ran into the hallway, screaming for help. Marvin came up with a flashlight and searched the area. Nothing, but he told her something that made her blood run cold. The man in 6B moved out 3 months ago. That apartment's been empty, and yet the window in 6B was wide open, facing hers, wide open. Kayla begged the building manager to let her stay in a different apartment. He agreed to move her to the 3rd floor, far away from the top windows and alley view. She thought that would solve everything. She was wrong. Her first night in the new unit, she felt relief until the power went out at exactly 3:30 a.m. She grabbed her phone flashlight as she tiptoed toward the window to check for any signs of the figure. The air turned ice cold. 3:33 a.m., the flashlight flickered. She turned toward the window, and before she could stop herself, she looked. There it was, on the fire escape, just inches from the glass. A face, not quite human, white stretched skin. No lips, only a gaping mouth. Hollow, sunken eyes. Its head tilted slowly, like it was studying her. She screamed and fell back. The flashlight died. She scrambled out of the room, slamming the bedroom door behind her. Then 3 knocks from the window, not from the door, not from the hallway, from the inside of the window pane. She ran to the hallway and pounded on her neighbor's door. No one answered. The whole floor felt abandoned. Suddenly, the fire alarm in her apartment went off. Smoke billowed under the door. She had to get out. She grabbed her coat and ran down the stairs to the front lobby. Marvin was there, eyes wide. "You saw it, didn't you?" She nodded, too shaken to speak. He pulled her into the security room. "Come here. You need to see this." He rewound the footage from the hallway outside her unit. At 3:33 a.m., the screen glitched static. Then, a frame, clear as day. The figure, inside the hallway. Outside her door, Marvin stared at the screen. "That's impossible. All doors out of lock. No one can get in from the fire escape. Not unless..." He didn't finish the sentence. Kayla left the building that night, checked into a motel across town. No windows, no high floors. She stayed up all night, afraid to sleep. But at 3:33 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number, one message. "Why did you move?" She blocked the number. Next night, 3:33 a.m., a knock on her motel door. She didn't answer. Morning came. The manager told her there was no camera footage of anyone walking up to her room. She moved again. Changed cities. Got a new phone, new job, new life. Months passed, until one night, after she started to feel normal again, she stayed up late reading. She glanced at the clock. 3:33 a.m. The window in her new apartment was cracked open. Cold air drifted in. On the glass were fingerprints from the inside. She didn't scream. She didn't move. Just slowly walked backward into her closet, closed the door, and waited for morning. No one ever believed her story, but she knows. You should never look out your window at 3:33 a.m., and if you do, never make eye contact. Because once it sees you, it never stops watching.